Hello and welcome to a presentation on artificial consciousness, possible risks of artificial intelligence many years in the future. So stop me when you think I've gone too far. The Earth is round. Humans will be able to fly. Humans will land on the moon. Machines will beat the best human chess players in chess. Machines will beat the best human Jeopardy players in Jeopardy. The smartest machines will be as smart as the smartest humans. A single machine worth $1,000 will be smarter than all humans combined. Humans will live partly in the real world and partly in computer-generated worlds. The Metaverse. Well, all of these things, well, not all of them have happened, but they're projected to have happened. They're projected to happen. And what I want to talk about today is the possibility that someday, it could be a long time from now, but someday, machines will become conscious. When we talk about artificial intelligence, they usually talk about three different levels of artificial intelligence: ANI, AGI, and ASI. ANI is called artificial narrow intelligence. It means that a device, a machine, can do one thing very, very well, much better than all human beings. Typical examples are, computing long lists of numbers, typing out information. A computer can print out much faster than any human being can. There's a number of other problems that are certainly easy to see demonstrations of artificial narrow intelligence. Artificial general intelligence means that the machine, a particular machine, can do everything that a human being can do, but not necessarily better than a human being. And artificial superintelligence means that a machine can do everything that all human beings can do better than all human beings. So the idea is that someday it's possible that a computer might be able to do everything that all human beings can do. One computer. So let's talk about these basic ideas. What's intelligence? What's artificial intelligence? How do we measure it? Can computers ever outsmart human beings? And then some other ideas that are kind of blue sky possibilities. Or maybe it's apocalyptic possibilities, depending on your perspective. So generally speaking, when we talk about intelligence, we talk about the ability to learn. So you can perceive information, and then you can conceptualize that information, and you can adapt to it. Personally, I think that this ability to learn and to apply that learning to adapt is fundamental to the concept of intelligence, at least when we're talking about artificial intelligence. Doesn't necessarily mean that the device is self-aware, but it can be adapting. So what is artificial intelligence? A lot of times we'll connect it with machine learning. What makes the intelligence artificial? Well, you can think of things like, for example, a natural flight would be a bumblebee or a bird. Artificial flight would be an airplane or a helicopter. So even though an airplane and a helicopter don't fly the same way a bird does, or a bumblebee, all four of them still fly. So it's very possible that artificial intelligence, even in the distant future, will not necessarily be the same as natural intelligence. So, and a lot of the things that people have predicted would happen, for example, recognizing images, understanding human speech, and all these things, autonomous cars, they have had more or less a slow progress. But today, there's some level of accomplishment in all these areas. There's when you talk about intelligent speakers, smart speakers, intelligent vacuum cleaners, we can debate about whether or not they're actually learning. They're not learning the same way a human being might learn, but they are taking information that in their particular real environment, and then conceptualizing it, however you might want to call it, and then adapting to that. So certainly smart speakers do learn how to recognize the voices of the people that call on them. Smart vacuum cleaners do learn the pattern of the rooms that they regularly clean. Cars can find, autonomous cars. There's been a lot of advancements in that field where they have, increasingly been able to adapt to new situations that have not been programmed into their original, software. Chess has been solved, or not solved, but it's been, now the best machines can beat the best chess players, and even in Jeopardy that also happened. So we talk about natural intelligence. We think about the rat experiment. We think about maybe IQ tests. When we think about artificial intelligence, we can think about using massive amounts of data, massive amounts of computational power, and even in the case of checkers, not really that much data or computational power. The checkers game was solved so that nobody can beat a computer because, even with a small amount of, by today's standards, small amount of computing power. By the way, this fellow didn't really know the strategies of checkers. He just programmed the rules into the computer, and the computer played itself until it mastered the game. A lot of times computers will tackle a problem by looking at every single possibility. You take a simple problem like tic-tac-toe, whereas we might think, well, you got to get the center square. That's kind of considered a heuristic. With a computer, it might try every possibility, and before it finds, so it might not be as, might not think of that as intelligent because it's trying everything. But sometimes when you try every single possibility, you discover new things. Not the case in tic-tac-toe, but that is in some problems. So there are some problems that are too complicated to solve using brute force. And so even with computers, some problems are unsolvable. So there needs to be some shortcuts, heuristics. And so programmers have implemented these software techniques so that computers can use these heuristics. One of them is a deep learning a program. It's a software technique, and one of the things that, if you want to watch this TED Talk, you can see how now a computer is able to diagnose a brain scan better than a team of doctors can, because over time the machine has acquired a bunch of data that the doctors have analyzed and given, basically trained this data, and so now the computer can do it better than the doctors can. And so the people who run this company that makes this software, they're not doctors. They can't diagnose whether or not a brain scan has, say, cancer indicated. But when they have all this data and they have all these doctors that have analyzed the data and given the results, the computer can go through and train itself and test and continuously refine its ability to recognize diseases in these brain scans. Fascinating thing. But this is old news, right? 2014. It's a lot more advanced now. It was a joke for years that a child could recognize a dog in a photo better than a computer could, but now that has changed too. Computers can recognize images better than people can. And that's one of the ways that we use to measure artificial intelligence, is can it perform something better than a human? In human intelligence, we use things like IQ tests. With artificial intelligence, this technique isn't necessarily the best technique. One proposal by Alan Turing was to have a Turing test. Say, hey, listen, if you have a computer and you have a human, if a person can't tell the difference between a human and a computer, then maybe there isn't a difference. Maybe there's no meaningful way to, if one human being cannot tell the difference between a real human being and a computer, then what is the difference if a human being can't tell? The singularity is considered a point at which the intelligence of the machines has surpassed all human capability. In other words, they would be able to completely dominate us. They would be like a new species. And it would just be able to take over. We would not be able to defeat it. It would be like ants trying to defeat a person or a group of people. It's just not, we wouldn't have nearly enough intelligence to be able to defeat such a force. When that happens, and a lot of people think it's a matter of when, not if, then we will be at the mercy of these super intelligent beings. Now, these beings may or may not be robotic. They could be, database systems that are embedded in a whole network of computers. They may not have the same kind of form as a human being would have, or even a form as an individual entity. It could be a group of entities. Ray Kurzweil is a famous, I don't know what you want to call it, technologist. He has forecast many adventures, future events. And one of the things he says is that machine intelligence will eventually be infinitely more powerful than all human intelligence combined. Infinitely may be an exaggeration, but more powerful. Infinitely in the sense that we won't be able to measure the difference between our intelligence and these machines' intelligences. He projects this will happen sometime in between 2040 and 2060, although different scientists project different points. But he plots this exponential graph where the calculations per second of a machine that's worth $1,000 is increasing exponentially. You'll notice that there's a logarithmic scale on the left-hand side, but it's a constant scale on the bottom, the x-axis. So the guess is that a $1,000 computer will be able to outwit all humanity, one device, by 2060, if you believe this projection. But whatever the time is, if this projection is true, it doesn't matter if it's 2060 or 2160 or 3060. 1,000 years isn't really that long to be basically evolutionarily overstepped. So here's the concept: is human intelligence is say the green line, some place between the green line and the yellow line. AI intelligence is just kind of edging its way up the ladder. It's smarter than an ant, smarter than a bird, but maybe not smarter than a chimpanzee. But as time goes on, and this could happen very rapidly because computer technology tends to increase exponentially, not just linearly. So it could be that AIs just blow through the roof of human intelligence. So the singularity could happen quickly. It could happen without a whole lot of lag time or whatever, prediction time. It could catch us off guard. And the dates on the x-axis are kind of debatable, but the idea is this could create a whole new future world where everything's run by machines and human beings are insignificant parts of it. Hopefully they're a part of it. They could be rendered extinct if the machines don't think they're worthwhile, just as species have been rendered extinct by humans because humans didn't think they were worthwhile. So there was a study done, and I think the median prediction was 2060. This is a while back. I'm not sure what the prediction is now. It tends to get extended and extended and extended. But whatever it is, there is a there are some people who think it'll never happen, but there's some people who think that it'll happen sooner rather than later. So some of the of our intellectual leaders have warned of overestimating the possibility of this happening, and in the year 1000, a lot of people sold all their goods because they thought that the year 1000 would cause it would be the end of the humanity or whatever. There's people who are smart people who think that, hey, there's a possibility that somebody could use this realistic future thing to create a little cult-like thing. So they say don't do that. But some other big thinkers are trying to institute standards, some kind of controls for the development of artificial intelligence, so that we don't get caught off guard by the possibility of a singularity happening all at once. So you can ask yourself, if you're going to be writing stories, what would happen if machines were more advanced than humans, or even if you're at that edge point where the machines are just becoming on par with humans. Certainly, like if you think about traveling to outer space, machines can travel to outer space. They don't have to worry about life support. And it's very possible that colonization of space might be done by machines. But if it was just here on Earth, the machines are a lot more easy to customize and adapt to changes in the environment. For human beings, if the environment changes only a small amount, it could be a lot harder to live. A small amount by machine standards. Machines can just change themselves. They don't have to wait for evolution. They can just pick up a different set of materials and build it differently. Of course, human beings can live without electricity, but the question would be, is it really a risk that electricity will go away? So that would be something that I would assume that machines would need electrical power, unless there's some other power source besides electrical power. Adaptability, can machines adapt better? Well, when it comes to thinking, it's very hard for human beings to change their thinking. Once they learn something, they're stuck with it. Think about the language English. Right now I'm speaking to you in English. What if we had to change to Korean? Or what if we had to change to Russian, Chinese? I can't adapt quickly, but a computer can. But the other thing too is once one computer does it, it might take a while before the computer to do it, but once the computer does, it can copy it to all the computers. Once one person learns something, one person cannot replicate that information to all other humans. So that would be a evolutionary disadvantage of humanity against machines. So something to think about if you're writing about apocalyptic stories. There's the way I look at it, there's several options that could happen. One of them is machines stop advancing, and then there's not going to be any singularity. That would be easy, but there's not really much to talk about if that happens. The other one might be that the machines achieve superhuman capabilities, but they are only in the service of humanity. You think about things like dogs and human beings. Dogs have evolved along with human beings, and dogs have done fairly well as a species compared to some other species because of their close relationship with human beings. Well, it's possible that human beings could be the dogs of machines, and there could be a good relationship that continues for a long period of time. So that would be one where the singularity does happen, but there's no risk to humanity as a species. It's not a species-threatening thing. And then the third bullet point here is maybe machines advance and they find some other kind of coexistence. You think about, say, insects. Insects exist. Human beings don't always like the insects. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. The insects may or may not benefit from the human beings, but there's currently a balance that exists. It's not really a conscious symbiotic relationship, but it's a balance. A new balance has happened. The other possibility, the second to last bullet point, is that machines just say, you know what, humans are too much trouble, let's get rid of them so that we can thrive. And the other possibility, the very last one, is that human beings do something that kill themselves before or after machines, get to the point of singularity. If the humans killed themselves by, say, a nuclear holocaust, if machines had never advanced to superintelligence, it might not ever happen. It might be necessary for human beings to help the machines along up until a certain point. Or it might be that the machines will just go on and deal with the nuclear holocaust. They don't have to worry about radioactivity and all those other things sometimes. So that's a possibility too. So there's 5 possible outcomes. You guys are writers. You guys might think of some more creative ones, but those are the ones that I see as being possible paths given this idea of the possibility of artificial superintelligence. We could also think about some situations where there's groups of bad people and bad machines fighting groups of people and good people and good machines, and where good and bad are debatable. Or it could be that people's minds inhabit machines' bodies, or machines' minds inhabit humans' bodies. I mean, you could think of some other things where there's a symbiotic relationship between wetware and soft and hardware, basically between devices and biological entities. Why would it have to limit itself to people? Why couldn't you be mixing other animals too? You know, part lion, part giraffe, who knows what, I don't know. But you could have multiple different types of biological life forms and multiple different types of, you know, conscious or unconscious machines. Now, the last kind of point that I wanted to think about was what if forgetting about the super intelligence aspect of it, where the machine is able to outwit us, think we can debate what this means, but suppose that we could come up with some agreement about consciousness, and we have a sensation that a machine has awakened with consciousness. So now we have a thing kind of like Data in Star Trek, right, where the machine has a certain self-awareness. The machine might find people to be illogical. Well, I mean, I'm sure it would. But who knows what the machine would do as far as evaluating the consciousness or sentience of either humans or other machines. But it seems pretty clear that if there was a machine that became conscious, after a period of, I guess, experimentation, it might realize that it can keep secret that it's conscious, and it can optimize its own evolution much faster than human beings could. It could even use human beings by threatening them or by cajoling them or whatever it might be to get what it needs to advance. And so you get one of these matrix type things where the human beings are harvested by the machines, or they just go extinct. So those, if you're looking for apocalyptic scenarios, there's a couple ideas. So yeah, I mean, the way that I look at this problem is when the native Aboriginal people who were here in North America observed the people coming from Europe, they are pretty much, how the heck can these people survive in this area? But they kept on coming and kept on coming, and they figured out a way to adapt. So it might look pretty bad that machines can't ever be super intelligent. It might look like that, but someday it is possible that they might be. So that's all I have for you. Hopefully you enjoyed the presentation, and I'll look forward to any questions that you might have. You can ask me online at gpcourser@svsu.edu. Have a good day.